Hello and welcome to Global Desi Women, the podcast where we celebrate bold voices, rich stories, and unstoppable South Asian women around the world. I'm your host, Arti Solanki, a real estate broker, business coach, and your go to girl for empowering Desi women to lead, grow, and thrive. Joining me today is my amazing co host, Bhavana Shelley, a brilliant business analyst, the one that has sharpest mind. And I know when it comes to strategies and systems. And before we dive into today's episode, I do want to give a special shout out to JWP India, a Joint Women Program. They're a nonprofit organization. To I would request all my listeners, please go check out their website. It's jwpindia.org. They do amazing job and I thank them for doing such a wonderful job uplifting, educating and advocate for women across India. Your work really truly inspires us every day. So please do check out their website. And if you can help in any ways, do that. And also, let's not forget, I want to wish all the men out there, all the fathers actually, not men, all the men. I wish all of them a very happy Father's Day. They're all amazing dads, I know, and it's a special weekend. So yes, I hope you all are enjoying Father's Day and taking them out for a special treat. And now our today's guest. Geeta Menon, with over 25 years in leadership role at SAP, Dell, and Accenture, Geeta has not only broken glass ceilings in tech and consulting, but she's also turned her deep passion for environment into powerful community impact. She's the founder of One Earth, One Chance, an environmental nonprofit that has planted over 5,000 trees and restored native habitats through more than 115 events. Today, Geeta is also shaping future changemakers as faculty for sustainability at UTD's Jindal School of Management. This conversation is going to be equal part career wisdom, environmental leadership, and purpose driven actions. Let's grab our cup of chai and get started. Geeta, welcome to Global Desi Women. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us.
I'm delighted to be with you, Arti and Bhavna. I'm so grateful to Namita for, forwarding the introduction to you. It's great. I just love the upliftment that you're doing for other Desi women, all with their own stories to tell. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. And Namita is, oh my God, she's such an amazing person. She has connected me to so many wonderful women like you. It's just, I can't believe her. She's a superwoman.
Really is.
Someone who's got great connections.
And uses them,
Yes.
for the good of others.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to get started, Geeta, by, you have such an impressive career across, SAP and Dell and Accenture. Can you tell us a little bit what shaped your journey into the corporate world?
On the corporate side, I'll be honest, a lot of it was, an expectation from a very feminist father and a sort of peer pressure around me. I grew up in Calcutta, studied at St. Xavier's College, and, it was just what everybody around me was doing and what the parents were expecting. It was kind of a very traditional step in my case. I think what was non traditional was perhaps at 21, embarking on, crossing several oceans and arriving here in the US for higher studies. But once that was completed, I think it was again just a natural move to, who's going to pay me and sponsor me for a green card. It was basically that. The green card part was made a little easier because I met my husband, and that kind of solved itself. On the career side, there were many opportunities, and it's so important what those steps are, because it's like one step leads to the other, and you don't think that each step's going to have such a big impact on your life, but they do. And I still remember being torn between a very research oriented role at AT&T versus Accenture, and I kind of picked the harder road in a sense, because naturally I'm more of an introvert, and consulting kind of forces you to be out there, your communication style, your work ethic, all of that. So, but I think it's always good to be a little bit uncomfortable. And I think that discomfort paid itself off, because it was like, I did my MBA, but this was the real MBA. This was really
Yeah.
where I learned the ropes, and that really helped me for the rest of my career. But I couldn't. It kind of I got burnt out a little bit, because consulting is hard, and I was a mother of one, and with the second on the way, and that's a hard lifestyle to keep up. And that kind of propelled me to do two things. I moved my whole family from cold New Jersey to warm Texas. And two, I actually started a business with my husband. I tell you, if you're going to do something like that, it's best to do it when you're young
Yeah.
and brave and slightly foolish, because I wouldn't have the guts to do that now.
Yeah.
We did it, and I'll be, not everything's a success in your life, right? And it was actually one of those like lessons learned, but it was a great experience, and we were so filled with optimism. It didn't quite work out, but I said, you know what? I'm back to corporate. And I went to Dell. I found Dell in Austin, and I learned a very key area called supply chain. So I've
Mhm.
always been in tech, but tech, it means different things to different people. And
Yeah.
it's the application of the tech that's important, right? And the application of the tech was towards supply chain, which is working with suppliers. Who thinks about that? We know the customer side, but we don't think suppliers. So that taught me some really great skills. And
And
once
that had picked up in last couple of years. Supply chain
it
has
has,
really picked up. I know a lot of I know a few of our friends' daughters who have done supply chain, and before you never heard about it, and now it's like it just picked up so fast.
it's a
Especially during
great
pandemic.
area to learn. Yeah, and if you're into something called operations research, so my background was math and operations research. That's a great career for people like that, because it's all about optimizing. You've got, certain constraints. You want to optimize not just on price, but on quality, reliability of the supplier, the financials of the supplier. So it's an optimization exercise at the end of the day. And even the tech that you apply, you're optimizing. So it's I think it's a great area for people who are slightly mathematically oriented, great area. But that kind of led me to the a startup that I joined. Again, one of those, choices that were not easy to make. But the choice was between that startup and Enron. Guess where that would have led me?
We all know that.
At every point, it's like, someone say something power
Same.
saved me from worse choices. But moving to this company called Quadrum, which was a e-marketplace, e-commerce, it was a dot-com era, and it was
Right.
big, and it grew, and I actually, financially gained from that, because I was one of the first few members of that company. So, it allowed me to take early retirement, because that company was bought by a company called Ariba, which was bought by SAP. And here, so at the age of 59, they offered me, after 24 years with the company, they had an early retirement package, and I actually took that.
Wow.
And you have to also know when to fold them.
Yeah.
And I cracked a few ceilings, but not all of them. There was a point where I'm like, I'm not going to make VP. This is senior directors as far as I'm going to go, and I was fine with that. Because every step you have to be, like Indra Nuis talks about it as well. There is a price to pay. You're not Nothing comes with easy, or
Yeah.
there's no such thing
No,
really as
absolutely
a
not.
free lunch, as they say. So I weighed the options, and I said, you know what, I want to do. There are other things that I'm passionate about besides, you know, um,
Right.
supply chain and e-commerce. And I took the jump, and then really focused on the nonprofit
Yeah.
side and
At what
academic.
point did you feel like it's like how did you feel pulled towards the environmental, being an environmental activist and sustainability? How did you get pulled into that?
To me, it seemed like a natural again, and I'm surprised that more of us Desi women are not thinking about it because I mean, my native state is Kerala, and it's a very green state.
Mhm.
And even when I was where I was raised, it was by the Hooghly River, by the a tributary of the Ganges, and it was idyllic.
Yeah.
And as I grew up, I mean, all these because of the crush of population, the need for food, agriculture, housing, things were changing around me, and the weather was changing, and I was seeing more disease and fires, and all of these, and just scarcity of water, and all these issues. So it was and Dallas grew by leaps and bounds. If you saw the Dallas, it was very like rural almost,
Yeah.
when I first came here. And in the last 25 years it's changed, so much with just like
And I think it's all
housing.
every place, right? Every place you go in 10 years of time, not even going back 20 to 30 years. I'm just talking about 10 years times, and things have changed so much. There's more and more concrete, but we don't have as many plants that we plant. So
Exactly. Exactly.
it's
And you can create a little oasis for yourself, maybe, but at the end of the day, it's not just somebody else. Somebody else isn't going to come fix this problem. You can't wait for the government to fix the problem. So I said, it's a big problem, and I see it. I hope others recognize the urgency, and
yeah.
that's part of our vision, is that people understand at least at the urgency of it and take some action, right? But from a mission standpoint, got together with some like-minded friends, and we said, what can we do? Because we're not built to be lawyers and do advocacy and lobbying and policy making.
Uh,
Those are powerful tools, but that's not where we wanted to be. We knew how to plant, right? So
right.
we said, let's go out there, just add more green. And it's great ROI. It's relatively low cost, but great returns. And then the cleanups, right? You go out there in the parks and you see so much trash. And that was an easy way to get kids out on a go for a trail, go visit a trail, do some pickup, litter
Be
pickups
out in the nature and just,
out in nature. So,
be
two
good.
things: you appreciate what's around you, you want to protect those natural resources, which are not unlimited. They're limited resources.
Yeah.
So you understand, what this treasure you have, but you also learn how your irresponsibility and kind of that culture of convenience that we're all so used to
Yeah.
is trashing what is precious, right? Like
Mhm.
everything ends up in waterways. So
Yeah.
so we've put like boots on and gone into the water and waded in like with waders and picked up trash. So green, clean, and then sustain, which is the current area that we're launching on June 14th. So the timing of this podcast is really essential. I'm hoping people will hear it and
Right.
join us at UT Dallas. UT Dallas is co-hosting an education series for the community, completely free of cost. 12 modules on topics very relevant, such as air, water, food, beauty and fashion, energy, all these topics that we grapple with on a daily basis. So these 12 modules will be delivered over the course of a year, just an investment of 1 hour a month to come
Wow. So
take
is
these
that available
classes.
online or just
It
in
is
person?
online as well because
Wow.
everybody can't be in Dallas attending these. We have partnered with 6 cities, including and UT Dallas, to deliver these classes, but not everybody can. So once the recording is available, we're going to post it online, so you can go watch it online, complete all the online quizzes, and then you get a certificate, a Green Ambassador certificate that you can post to your social media, and it does two things. It shows your commitment to sustainability, but it
Yeah.
also prepares you for what I hope is the green economy, like a more circular economy and
Mm.
green jobs,
Oh,
because
wow.
every job can be a green job, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. And this is so fantastic. Like you said, it's coming up, and we'll definitely, if you can share us the link afterwards, and we'll put that in the podcast description, and we will definitely share that over the social media as well so that people can take advantage of it. And also, like you said, you have a certificate that you've done. You are, I guess, environmental friendly,
Yeah.
right? So,
It's more about response. It's like stewardship.
yeah, yeah,
It's not this earth is mine and I take some responsibility. So
right.
So,
That's what we're hoping.
Geeta, where do you usually run these, kind of activities? Like you said that you've planted so many trees, or your organization have done it. What are your regional areas that you focus on, or you're doing it all over?
So the vision is all over. So there's really no, but it's boots on the ground, right? Like we want people to say, you know what, I'm going to be the One Earth, One Chance chapter in Houston or Austin, and we will do, we will replicate what you've done with the six cities in Dallas and replicate it elsewhere. Now, obviously we would want to focus on areas with low tree canopy. So urban forestation is what we're trying to drive, and habitat restoration. So looking to, and ideally also economically disadvantaged, because guess what? The more, the ones that are more economically disadvantaged, those neighborhoods, those schools, those streets tend to have less trees.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
What
just
kind of trees do you plant? Is there any
That's a
specific?
great question, because Indians love fruit trees
Yeah.
and all these exotic trees, but those don't survive very well in
They
this
don't.
like, this is a prairie. These are considered prairie, the Blackland prairie area, and it is arid, and some of those trees are great for tropical areas, and you should plant them in those areas, but here they won't survive as well. So we want plants, and we want native, both native, because a forest is not just trees; it's also native plants. So we look for native plants and native trees that have done well and adjusted to the climate here,
Hmm.
and they're suitable for the small animals, birds, and the flora and the fauna of this area rely on those, right? So it's an ecosystem. It doesn't sit separate. We tend to do native trees, so
So,
oaks
in
and
in
so
in
on.
other regions, like I am in New Jersey. I know you said cold. I tell you, it's still cold.
Come
And she's
join us.
also, she used to be a consultant too. So that's also,
You're
You
right
get
up
it
my
then.
alley because I did
Florin
Microsoft
Park
Dynamics
was
products. Yeah, I did consulting for Microsoft from Dynamics product, and like how your is supply chain, I'm mostly in projects. So I do project accounting, the government contractors and GC and all that kind of stuff.
sure.
So that's what I
Yeah,
specialize in. And now I'm a business analyst. So, you know,
got it.
I do all of it, but now I be in the front end in the customer. So, but
Yeah.
if like you're focusing because maybe the resource that you have right now over there, what if there are other people from other regions, like somewhere like in New Jersey, and they want to follow what you're doing in our area? Okay, how do they go about and connect with you and try and get together and do something about it?
That's a great question, Bhavna, and I can see the project manager in you, asking that question. It's like, how do we enable these people? So what because I do adopt a lot of corporate stuff into how our whole team is full of ex-corporate people, and one person who's more from the arts, so to balance it out,
Right.
so it's not too corporate, because we want empathy, and we want, and art and culture is equally as important, so we try to bring all those aspects in. But what I would say is we've created playbooks painstakingly, so everything from the front end to the back end operations, to how do we work with cities, how do we organize cleanups, how do we do the education, everything is captured in playbooks.
Nice.
And so whoever is wanting to lead a chapter in another area, we would take them through an orientation process so that they understand, how we do it here. Obviously, there's going to be new aspects that,
Mm.
some of this is not a science,
yeah.
right? It's relationships with the cities. Like, why are these six cities giving us free space to do our education? Because they trust us. They've seen us over 5 years. We've
Mm.
worked together on tree plantings and native plantings. We've done cleanup. So there's this trust and relationships, which those cannot be, taught. You have to develop that, right? But we can teach you how we went about it. What was our strategy? What was our plan? What did the play? What worked? What didn't work? Even
Mm.
like Salesforce has given us free licenses to automate our back end. So,
Nice.
kudos to companies like that support nonprofits and provide these things free of cost. So we have a working model that can be replicated.
That's
Okay,
awesome. Like,
good.
that's really helpful.
Yep, that's a
Yeah.
good. Like
So we just
over
want
the
people who are passionate about it, right?
like over here, even in your front yard, if you want to plant some trees, you have to first call your city and your, um, their you have to take their permission because we're not supposed to plant any tree 10 feet from our curb. So we can plant it inside, but we cannot plant it outside. It would be so much nicer if you plant it across the edge of the road. There's going to be plenty of shades and everything. So the
Yeah.
next town, Metuchen, does it. Metuchen town
Yeah,
actually goes out
that's
there
interesting.
and
Yeah.
plant trees. Edison
Okay.
doesn't allow that.
I see.
So
That's
they're neighboring towns, but they have different rules for planting trees.
and that's what I meant by it's not an exact science. Is different cities also have different relations. Some are a bit more standoffish, and some are a bit more warm and welcoming. And we obviously picked the ones that were,
Yeah.
and that were more, I would say, green minded.
Right.
Wanted to work with partners. They want the community to be involved. It's not like it's our area kind of thing. So we've had luck with that with multiple major cities. But this thing of not planting near a sidewalk seems odd because you want the shade on the sidewalk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what they think. I'd love to understand what their thought process is.
Well, come to New Jersey. You're
Look
gonna have
into
to come
it.
back.
Right. I do go back for sure. Both my girls, unfortunately, I have two adult daughters, 32 and 28, who decided Texas was not for them. And
Mm,
they both settled in New York City. So I go back pretty often.
yeah. Yes, then you would be here.
So you've organized over 115 events and planted so many trees. What's been the most impactful moment in that journey?
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, it's about the community engagement.
Mm.
Even if you talk to companies, we've actually done road shows in companies like show and tells. So we work with all four areas. We work with the community, we work with educational institutions, we work with corporations, and we work with the government, with the cities, right? So we cut across all the sectors, and all of them will tell you it's about the people. It's about engaging people, because this is not a lone wolf venture. You want people to be engaged, and when people are engaged, they work miracles. I have
Do you
people who
do you find that people do you find it difficult? Did you find it difficult in the beginning to get people involved in it, get engaged in this, or was it really fairly easy for you to do so?
engaging people was not as difficult. Raising funds was difficult.
Yeah, that's always the difficult part.
Because that's some especially our community, their priorities are a bit can be different, and what they will spend on versus so those are some of the challenges that we honestly, that's the biggest challenge we face. So we're trying to go after some organizational money and so on, but the story resonating with people also can have challenges, because a lot of people think about their today. It's not a crisis in their minds, right? And I don't want to wait till it is, right? And I think that sense, so it just depends, on what people's priorities are. But all of that can be quite challenging, but never discouraging. Anytime you feel even slightly discouraged, there's, one or two people that step in and work a miracle, and you're like, oh my God, this is heaven sent,
Yeah.
like I've had people retired from corporate who have developed our website, or, gone out then, donated, given us, like PIN gave us a grant, there's other institutions that gave us grants. And I'm like, someone steps in and gives you a pat on the shoulder, and then you continue moving on. So I
Yeah.
think that the encouraging moments have been far greater than the discouraging ones. But it's there. I mean, there is a block. Some people just don't get it, right? They'll
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Like,
in
So,
especially in today's
yeah.
environment, climate change.
how many people do you like so far that are part of your organization?
So it depends on, because we don't hire anybody, right? Like
Right. They're all
we're near zero expense ratio, which is amazing. And I don't know how long we can do it, but we certainly are doing it today. So we have a board of about 8 people, board members. And then we have our key donors, who have given us 500 or more per year. And we are very close to them, and we consider them almost like part of our core team. And then there's the members, regular members, who most people don't balk too much at giving like 100 a year or whatever to a charity they care about. So we have several of those members, and they come out and volunteer time as well. So, that's really beneficial to us. So I would say it's a and then, as I said, there are these sectors. So our family isn't just people who volunteer or give their time and money, but it's people we work with, our partners. They're part of our community. So it's a very large community. If you look at how our model is a partnership model. It's not like the age old monolithic nonprofits with hundreds of foot soldiers. That's not us. We are agile, nimble, and we take help where we can.
And on you said about your website. So do you have on your website a capability where people, if they want to donate money, they can just do that? So maybe you want to give that link to us
Yeah.
so we can post it on our site if anybody anywhere interested in kind of
Yeah.
donating some money, then
And I think that's a great
It's
way.
a very catchy URL. It's
One.
oneearth.onechance.org, ORG. So it's easy to find, but yes, we're happy for any and all support.
do you do something like forestry management, or that's not something that you've gotten in?
No, so that we make sure that the city owns it's always public land. We have not yet done plantings on private land. It has to be public land that's accessible to the public for obvious reasons.
Mhm.
And the city owns that land, and they own the trees, and they maintain it. So some cities put in irrigation to make sure that the trees survive the first year I think we've only lost like one or two trees. We've not, even with the storms, we've been very lucky, but they either put in the irrigation beforehand, or they put what they call their like bags that are refilled on a periodic basis, and kind of provide ongoing water for the tree, which is more like a service versus an expensive irrigation. Irrigation can be expensive,
It can be
so
expensive, right?
yeah.
It
Especially,
is.
you know, areas in the, on a trail or something like that if you're planting
And plus Texas heat. I mean, just think
exactly.
about that. Triple digits. So then that's crazy.
But these are native trees. So once they pass that first year and they have the stakes to keep them upright, well, in their formative age and we also put in like 45-gallon trees. So these are as like as
Small one.
wide as your arm. Like these tree trunks are pretty solid. They're big trees. And so we try to do the mature trees. We try to do the irrigation. We'll do the staking to make sure they survive that first year. Once they've survived the first year, they will be
Yeah.
fine.
So do you go back and check on them, or once you plant it, it's done, or how does that work?
We do, and honestly, that's an area that I really invite people who have come to do the plant. People who volunteered their
Yeah.
time to go plant it. I invite them not to just wait for the annual visit back, but I would say go back and visit them often, because think of them as your babies. That you've put in the ground, and just like the feeling that you have towards your pet,
Yeah.
I would love for that feeling to be there, and for people to go back and visit their trees, because they're just silent, stalwart
So
foot
now,
soldiers.
since you mentioned that you work on public lands only, like, does that mean that every project you have to get the permission from the city, obviously, and go through? So how long does that process takes, like getting and how do you pick certain areas to plant? How do you pick with
Yeah.
those?
That's a really good question. So there are arborists, and the city has forestry staff. You asked the question about the forestry division. These cities that we picked, they have education learning centers, biodiversity education learning centers, where we're doing our education, but they also have forestry divisions, environmental services offices. Some of them have lost some stuff, with recent changes, but they're all there. The first time we went about this, like in 2019, it was more of a challenge because they didn't know who we were. They're like, "What? You're giving us money to plant trees, and what you try?" They were suspicious of what this entity was. But now it's different. Now they're telling us, "Hey, this is the schedule. Do you want to come join?" Do you want to? So, and they've done tree giveaways too, like City of Richardson, one of our biggest, most friendly cities, has done giveaways. Like 1,000 trees last year was
Yeah.
given away to
We
residents.
also have that here.
Yeah,
We do
yeah,
that too. Yeah. It's amazing. I like that program a lot because it encourages people to plant a tree, because for me, I'm a vegetable gardener. And so
nice.
for me thinking about a lot of times, neighborhoods and HOAs, and they don't allow you to plant vegetables or grow your garden in
Mm,
anywhere visible in the front or the side. It has to be in the backyard. And I feel like growing grass is such a waste
such a
because you waste your water, I mean, yeah, it looks green and nice, but it doesn't give you any return to it. So I
so
feel like I wish I could just take everything out and just plant all the vegetables and just share it to everybody.
No, I mean, I think you are on to something because that's kind of why I retired in Parker, Texas, because they have this zoning for the acre property. And I don't have any grass in my backyard. I mean, there's trees, there's 100 trees. And
Wow.
yes, I know. And I have rain ponds, which feed the trees. And then I have the solar panels. I mean, there's so much you can do, but you're right. There are restrictions. Not everybody can do that. HOA restrictions, doing city permission, HOA permission is required.
It's getting better though. It is getting better because a lot of neighborhoods I've seen, like, because I think after COVID, a lot of thing has changed and people have started understanding that it is so essential to at least be able to have things that you can, just go into the yard and grab and eat, at least, food wise. It's there.
It is. It is.
So it makes so much sense after COVID that people have started becoming more and more into gardeners. You see urban gardeners, you see so many people now getting into vegetable gardening.
Well, I mean, the health of the planet is so closely tied to the health of people,
Of
right?
course.
And people have to realize that, and clean food is part of it. Like if you are not putting chemical pesticides and fertilizers and all of that in the ground, which then seeps into the water, and we're drinking that water. So I mean, I think all around clean food is just as important,
Yep,
right? And we
absolutely.
actually did a organic farming event. We want to encourage that,
Yeah,
and it helps with food security. You don't go hungry if you have
absolutely. Yeah.
grow
Yeah.
your own produce. Yeah,
And I mean, taste wise, oh my God, it's so much better.
phenomenal.
I just harvested squash and I gave it to family members, and they were like, "We've never tasted so sweet and so wonderful." And I'm like,
Now
"Fresh
you
from the
can't go
yard."
back once you tasted that. You're right. Yeah.
So engaging and getting volunteers, has that been a challenge, or how do you post it? Like, say you are on this project and you need 20 people there. How do you like get them there?
Yeah. So two things. I mentioned earlier about our partnership model. That's how we do it. Because if we post and say, please come out there, and let's do a litter pickup, maybe one person will show up, But if you do the partner models, they are already, you know, in a group together. So we'll like recently, Save Texas Education Group and Charity to Miles came out with 60 volunteers because they have that network, and they have that community already. So we partner heavily. And that's our model. And then to kind of answer, I think I didn't fully answer your question earlier about who decides where to plant. We rely on the city to tell us where to plant, and sometimes they even pay for half of it, right? Like we do a match. I actually prefer that model than just doing like here's the money,
Yeah.
because then it's a real partnership.
Entrepreneurship.
They tell us what trees go where, what spots, like they're the experts, and we rely on them because we're people from corporate. We are passionate about this, but maybe one or two people on our team are truly like educated, right, on
Yeah.
that restoration, but that shouldn't stop us from doing it, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
because forestry in itself, it's a whole
It's a
different
science.
science. I had a client where we looked at it and like, oh my God, there's so much that goes into the research and their way of the soil, what kind of trees are gonna last, and when are they gonna. It's a whole different
It's a science, like
analysis.
there's geology, there's
Yeah,
botany, there's everything is involved in
yeah.
it.
There's a lot of knowledge that you need to have in order to maintain that.
Yeah. So, what advice would you like to give to a woman who's looking to combine their career success with their personal mission and purpose, like you did? What would you say to them?
I would say I'm just going to be a little ironic, but choose your spouse wisely. I think your partner is important because they have to support all the you know all
Yeah.
the craziness that comes in your head that you want to try out. They have to be your family has to be supportive. I would say, right? So that is I completely understand that if that's not the case, it can be difficult, right? Like we can't make this seem like, oh, you can go, you do need that support system because things do fall by the wayside when you're
Yeah.
going out there pursuing things. So I would say, and this is very trite, but we all talk about like having your board, your friends, and choose your friends wisely, choose your wisely, family you kind of are born with, but surround yourself with people who will support your vision. And even if they don't agree, at least, they bring points to the table that you probably should consider.
Yeah.
Just because someone disagrees with you, like we have members on our board, we have very strong, opinionated board members, and I love it because if everybody thought the same, there would be no
No.
progress, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, three things. One, create those quadrants and say, what do you need for yourself? What do you need career wise? What do you need for your family? But then save a little bit for the community. These are not people you know.
Yeah.
The others are easy to do something. Hopefully for yourself, your family, friends is easy, but the community is a little bit harder because you have to really think outside of yourself and say, how do I help people I don't know, right? So do that work and then find what it is that makes you maybe angry or sad. And I was both, right? So that's good motivation to then try to change that status quo, right? And so set your mission after you've done your quadrants, set your mission and go after that single. Don't listen to too much discouragement because there will be people who don't, especially in the
There's
beginning,
always a
you have
lot
to.
of noise, but you need to
Always
know.
noise. Yeah. But your gut is always usually right, right? But again, just listen to everybody, but do what you have to do, right? And focus on that mission and go towards it because success is the best win, right? Like when you later on when you go back and you look at the metrics and you say, hey, you know what? We accomplished something in the last 5 years, So I would say if you've got those two, whatever life throws at you, you'll be able to overcome it because it's not easy. There are challenges, right? And we've all faced them.
Absolutely. That's so nicely said. So, as a leader, educator, and a mentor, what legacy do you hope to leave for the next generation of Desi women?
I would love Desi women to kind of forge paths that that they may think is difficult to achieve. And I think there are areas that we gravitate towards like fashion and things like interior decoration and things like that. But like I'm teaching a course on AI and sustainability in the fall. I'm not necessarily like I'm not necessarily the expert on both sustainability or the expert on AI, but together, yes, because the application of AI for sustainability is something that is deeply important to me, and I have taught that to myself, learned it over time, and now I have enough knowledge that I can share. So don't discredit yourself. And don't limit yourself, and don't say this is my comfort area and I'm going to stay there. Just go find that area that stretches you a little bit and go do it. But honestly, I love working with young people. And that's why I gravitated towards academics, is because that's the legacy that I'm building, right? Those are the people that I hope, it's easy to, to advise your own children, but these are not my children, and I see that, I see the influence, I see their work products improving with my help, I see their thinking getting sharper with my assistance. So I see that, and I want to continue coaching because that's my legacy. At the end of the day, it's, the trees will speak for me and the clean waterways might speak for me, but it's also these children that hopefully remember something and take the message forward.
And plus what you're doing is what you said, it's not about today. You're building things that are beneficial to the next
Generations to come.
right? So we may not see it right now, but in the long run it will make
It
sense.
is. And if you're spiritually minded, then you believe that, we are part of something that's eternal. And
Yep. We'll come back.
this is my prayer. This is my path, right? And so everybody has to find that for themselves. But yes, this is not, I don't think we may, who knows, if I live to a ripe old age, I might see some of the it's, I think water especially, I'm very concerned about, right? So
Wonderful.
we have to, kind of band together and make, do little things, little practices. Don't have to wait for an institutional organization or government to do it. Let's do it at home. Let's get that reusable grocery bag in the car. Let's try to avoid those plastic single use bottles. Let's get a reusable bottle. Just little steps, turn off lights, unplug appliances, do little things that put us on that path of what can be a very spiritual path.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right about that because see, I think in we are so blessed here that water, we get water every 24/7 and all over our house, right? But in India, you look at this, there are places they have certain hours of the day. That's the only time they can have water supply. And they have to fill up the pots, they have to fill up everything, and they have to make sure that they don't empty it out because it'll come again the next day for that 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever. And so it's so precious for them. And here we're
Oh,
like, okay,
precious.
we're just showering for so many hours. We're wasting, we keep our tap open while brushing our teeth. And you always kind of like, you have to be conscious about it. Like, okay, you don't need the faucet on. You can brush and then turn it on. You have to be very conscious about certain things
Yeah,
while
drinkable
using water.
water is a very finite commodity. We must be more careful. A friend of mine gave me a bucket, and I I have a hand shower that I use to fill the bucket, and I try to do mine with one bucket, and so water is something that, like, we have to start treating like gold. And like, one of our flushes can, how many gallons, so you have to get those low flow, you know
Yeah.
toilets and faucets. So I know not everybody can upgrade these things, but at least,
Also ways
conserve.
of doing it for the toilets. There's a way of doing it. Like I think there's something that you put it in the tank and it'll take less water or something. I know I've looked it up.
Yeah. Yeah, there are the systems that don't use as much water. You
Yeah.
don't need that,
And then these days, there are a lot of new appliances that actually
there
are
are. Yeah.
built to use less water and energy.
And that's Bhavna, you're talking about something that we can really talk with our wallet, you know? So if we buy organic, we buy these appliances that are good for the earth, good for us, use products that are good for us, I think with our, even if the environment around us is not conducive to those conversations, companies will start hearing what the consumers are saying, and they will do that, right? Because it makes monetary sense for them. So I think we can really speak with the power of the consumer is pretty great.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
So, Geeta, thank you so much for sharing your story with us with such a great strength and purpose. Your journey from global boardrooms to grassroots change is such a kind of an impact, and we love to highlight all your links and websites and everything on Global Desi Women. It'll be a very good, to have all those. And we encourage all our listeners to go do check that out. Try to help Geeta's mission as much as possible by either volunteering, and if you're in another area, if you want to open a chapter, reach out to Geeta again, like we talked about it. And you really are the proof that leadership and compassion can go hand in hand. You've shown us how success doesn't have to stop at paycheck, it can grow into something far bigger: legacy and environment and community. So, to all our listeners, if you are feeling inspired to plant a seed, build a dream, or speak your truth, let this episode be your sign. So make sure you
Thank you.
follow us on Instagram. It's at the Arti Solanki, and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you can tune in. We are available on multiple platforms. And don't forget your story matters. Until next time, keep growing, keep glowing, and keep showing up for yourself and for your community. Like I always say, be kind to yourself and others. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arti and Bhavna.
Thank you, Gita.